Sergio, and thank you for inviting me here. For 70 years, immigration has been a major force in building and shaping our society. In the past decade alone, more than 2 million people have been added to our population through international migration, far more than through natural increase, and equivalent to almost 60% of total population growth over the period. To maximise the economic benefits arising from the hundreds of thousands of migrants settling in Australia each year, Australia's permanent migration program has a strong emphasis on skills. More than 2/3 of the 190,000 permanent visas granted in 2014-15 were to migrants who came through Australia's skills stream. Permanent migration is complemented by even larger levels of temporary migration, currently more than 700,000 grants per year. Again, these temporary visas are strongly oriented towards the needs of the labour market, be it through 457 workers or working holiday makers doing the sorts of jobs Australian businesses are unable to fill locally, or international students working part-time while they pursue a world-class education at an Australian institution. Collectively, that's almost 900,000 temporary and permanent migrants being added to our economy every year, filling jobs ranging from fruit picking to neurosurgery and everything in between. And of course, that's not even counting the numbers of New Zealanders who move to Australia every year. Many of the direct economic benefits from migration can be readily appreciated. For example, a perusal of data from the most recent census shows that while migrants make up just over a quarter of the workforce, more than half of our GPs, dentists and chefs are from overseas. Migrants are also significantly overrepresented in engineering, accountancy and IT professions. We also know from our own surveys and commission research that most migrants find work quickly, which means they are helping to stem the fall in labour market participation brought about by our ageing population and are making a positive contribution to the budget bottom line. Less measurable, but no less important, are the economic benefits from migrants' other qualities, attributes which stand them apart from the general Australian population. This includes specialist skills acquired overseas, access to transnational business networks, and first-hand knowledge of overseas cultures and practices. Migrants also self-select to come here, which drives them to succeed and fosters a strong entrepreneurial spirit. All of these less measurable benefits fall under the banner of cultural diversity, and with a more diverse migrant cohort, that is becoming increasingly valuable to us. Focusing on our tourism and hospitality sectors, for example, the census tells us that employment in the accommodation and food service industry grew 35% between 2005 and 2011, and that what has been driving this growth has been people from overseas, particularly migrants from Asia, up 60% over that same period. Turning to specific countries, Chinese workers were up 46% and Indian workers up 193%. Employment growth in this direction and of this magnitude is well aligned to tourism trends. Asia has been our fastest growing tourism market over the past decade, growing almost 400% between 2004-05 and 2014-15. This alignment has helped Australia ensure that we are becoming better equipped to understand the intricacies of other cultures. There's no point having the best tourist attractions globally if the marketing, messaging and service delivery is wrong. Continuing to align ourselves with these markets will be especially important over the next decade, as growth from Asia, driven by a burgeoning middle class, will become even more spectacular. Tourism Australia estimates that numbers from Indonesia will increase by up to 66% next year, not next year, but over the next decade. Numbers from India will be up 84%, and we expect that numbers from China might go up to an impressive 111%. In fact, by 2019, it looks as though China will overtake New Zealand to become the largest source of visitors to Australia. The benefits of cultural diversity extend well beyond tourism, though. In competing for business on a global stage, an appreciation of another country's business and social culture is often the difference between success and failure. The business model and practices necessary for success are in a large part determined by the culture of the market entered into. Again, Australia has done well in this respect because we can capitalise on our cultural diversity from our migration program, and that's led to growing ties with Asian trade partners. For example, trade with China has outpaced overall growth in international trade, growing by an astonishing 850% since the turn of the century, compared with the overall average of 130% increase. If you look at it another way, back in 2000, China accounted for just 7% of our international trade. By 2015, this had risen to 28%. So, leveraging off the benefits of a cultural diversity through the framework of a sophisticated migration program will be essential in weathering economic headwinds as we make the transition from our greatest mining boom ever to a more service-oriented economy. Just this morning I was looking at the CSIRO report, Tomorrow's Digitally Enabled Workers. The report identifies 6 megatrends for Australian jobs and employment which are anticipated to emerge over the next 2 decades. One of those megatrends is a more culturally and generationally diverse workforce. So I'm interested to hear the presentations from the 4 speakers today as they take us through the benefits of cultural diversity and the important contribution skilled migrants can make to Australian businesses.
Thank you for that information, Elizabeth, very helpful. And as we can see, there is a lot of opportunities waiting for us to take